All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Shattered Glass Collection Decepticon Slicer with the Exo-Suit. And yeah, this is an interesting figure to talk about because like Flame War, it's doing some kind of strange things for the Shattered Glass Collection in that this is not really a Shattered Glass character. This is more homaging a new version of a G1 character. If you're unfamiliar with who Slicer is, he's actually an Action Master who was a repaint of the Action Master Wheeljack. So obviously here they've made our new version of Slicer a repaint of our Earthrise Wheeljack. And now, being an Action Master, the original Slicer didn't have a vehicle mode, but you know, Wheeljack did before that, so put two and two together. Okay, his vehicle mode is probably a lot like Wheeljack's. Makes sense. And the original Slicer was one of the Action Masters that was, I believe it was European exclusive, and it was one of the ones that came with like a big sort of playset feature. It came with this big Exo-Suit, which basically it could transform from like a little, you know, like dune buggy type thing that Slicer could sit inside and ride, and then it transformed by just basically flipping up and becoming like an Exo-Suit for Slicer that he could stand in. It didn't really do a lot. It mostly just stood up, right? So to kind of homage the Exo-Suit, they have also included this character who I guess is being named Exo-Suit. This is just a straight up repaint of the Earthrise Fast Track or Full Tilt. I always get those two confused. Fast Track, I think, is Scorponok's buddy there. So it's it's one of the weaponizers. So you can take it apart and kind of recreate the sort of like Exo-Suit feature in robot mode for this guy, and then he's got his own little vehicle mode, which you can't really get him to ride. I mean, in theory, there's some things you can do, but like mostly he's just like a separate guy. And I kind of wish they'd given him his own new name or something, because he's not an Exo-Suit, right? And that would be a strange name for an individual to have, as being named Exo-Suit. So I get why they call it that. I get the reference, but it's a little bit strange to like just call him Exo-Suit. But it's a neat homage. But it's all very weird being in the Shattered Glass collection, because ultimately, like, he's not a Shattered Glass character. Like, is this a Decepticon, like a Shattered Glass Slicer? Or, and the reason this one makes a little bit more sense being in the Shattered Glass collection than Flame War did, for example, is because the comic design for Shattered Glass Wheeljack has actually always been based on Slicer's color scheme. So this one is like sort of pulling double duty as being a Shattered Glass Wheeljack and a not Shattered Glass, just G1 Decepticon Slicer. So you can kind of decide which it is. That being said, even though it's in the Shattered Glass line, it is being marketed as a, Decepticon, not as the Shattered Glass Autobot. So it's got a regular purple Decepticon logo on it, but I suppose if you wanted to, you could get like a sticker of the purple Autobot logo and make it your Shattered Glass Wheeljack. It's doing also the other annoying thing that Shattered Glass does, where they already cost a little bit more than your typical like deluxe would cost, because it comes with the comic book with the exclusive cover. So they always cost about $10 more, which is annoying because, I don't want to pay $10 for a comic book. I would just rather not buy it, but whatever. But this figure also comes with an entire extra deluxe class figure as an accessory. So he cost the price of 2 deluxes plus the comic book, when really I was only wanting this guy. That being said, since I have this guy in hand, it is kind of fun to like try to create different modes and mess around with the two of them and try to make like an Exo-Suit or a combined vehicle mode and stuff like that. It is fun to play around with it, but I wouldn't necessarily, of my own volition, have bought this figure if it didn't come with the one that I actually wanted. So a little bit scummy, but yeah, you know how it goes. Here he is. Here is the comic book of mention. He's got, it's got the same thing going on where the shards of glass are picked out in the you know, the more reflective paper there, and it looks nice. I'm sure there's some comic explanation for like if this is actually supposed to be Shatter Glass Wheeljack in the comics, or if this is a good guy Slicer, or what's going on there. But yeah, I haven't gotten around to it yet. It's just strange in concept. But yeah, like personally, I bought this to be Slicer, so it, you know, it doesn't bother me so much. Like, I'd prefer it have the Decepticon logo, but since it's in the Shattered Glass line, I just think it would have made more sense if they had marketed as Shattered Glass Wheeljack, and then just, you know, have it be like, oh, if you want it to be Slicer, maybe put the Decepticon logo instead. And what's really annoying is, like, you know, not that I would do this necessarily, but I could see someone wanting to buy two of them, one to be Slicer and one to be Shatter Glass Wheeljack. But if you buy two of them, it also means you're getting two of these, which you might not necessarily want. So that's, again, kind of annoying, but also, like, I was not planning to buy more than one of these anyway, so it's whatever for me, but I could see that being annoying for someone. But yes, either way, enough of the, you know, complaining about the price stuff aside, he looks really nice in his vehicle mode. And again, you know, being an Action Master, Slicer didn't have a vehicle mode originally, but a previous version of Slicer, and again, where the Shattered Glass precedent comes in a little bit, is actually they did a BotCon repaint of the Energon Downshift mold, who was very, very clearly designed to be Wheeljack, but they couldn't call him Wheeljack because there was another guy in Armada who was called Wheeljack, who was designed to look like G1 Sideswipe, who couldn't be called Sideswipe because there was another character in Armada named Sideswipe that didn't look like anybody. So that's how Downshift was born. So there was previously a repaint of Energon Downshift into the Slicer colors because, you know, he already looked like Wheeljack, so they didn't need to repaint him into Wheeljack. And that design was used in the comic books as the basis of Shattered Glass Wheeljack. So that's kind of where that comes in. And because of that, he comes with these two extra accessories that weren't originally part of either of these two figures. There are these like nice little clear plastic weapons here that are supposed to be homaging the weapons that originally came with that Downshift mold from Energon, and so were included in the, you know, BotCon Slicer. And yeah, they're pretty neat. I like these guns. I like that homage a lot. Unfortunately, I mean, like the original Downshift slash, you know, Slicer, they've kind of plugged on as like smokestacks on the side here to be like, you know, smokestack vents or whatever you'd call that, and they can't do that with the Earthrise mold. So what they've done here is, for both of these guns, they actually have a little bit of a hinge in the middle. So what you're supposed to do is plug them onto the back here like this and have them kind of wrapped around the car. And that's neat that they gave them that functionality. I can't say that it like looks particularly good. I don't think, like, it still, I don't think really is great weapon storage, but it's neat that they gave it a little extra functionality to kind of do that. There's a few other options. I mean, if you wanted to, you could always, you know, take off the spoiler and put it somewhere else and then plug these up here. I think that looks, you know, even though you're not using the extra hinge, I think that looks, you know, marginally better. You could, this one specifically has a hole on the bottom, so you could peg it into this one and then peg it on top. And I think that looks a little bit better too. What I generally do is instead of storing them on him, I've decided it just looks a little bit better to plug them onto the back of the arm ports on the Exo-Suit guy, which unfortunately are kind of tight. And get it in like that and then hinge them up like this, just because, you know, this vehicle mode already is just kind of like a mobile guns platform, so it doesn't look as much like out of place on him as it does on Wheeljack, or, you know, Slicer rather. So I personally choose to do that. Like, you know, this is like his subordinate who you know, follows him around and is basically just like an extra pile of guns for him. You know, not exactly accurate to the G1 thing, because the G1, you know, Exo-Suit wasn't like a sentient extra guy, but, you know, the way they've done it here, it's an extra robot. So, and then he comes with the same weapon that the original Earthrise Wheeljack came with, which, again, the only real way to store is just plug onto the top of the car, which I don't think looks good. And also, I just don't think he needs it. he's got a whole extra buddy that is just entirely made out of guns. So I don't know if he needs the little pathetic shoulder thing, but he does come with it. So yeah, that's them for their vehicle mode. There is some fun stuff you can do here. They haven't like shown off anything specifically in the instructions for like a combined vehicle mode. There are some modes you can do in robot mode so that he's like kind of riding him, but now that he has his own vehicle mode, I don't think that makes like a tremendous amount of sense. So personally, I tried experimenting around with these figures and making like a kind of like weird combined vehicle mode to kind of capture the spirit of the original Action Master toy. So I can show you how to do that. I just here, let's do just take all the stuff apart. We'll take off his spoiler, take off the little knife off the back. You know, if you're familiar with Fast Track, it's just the same, a lot of parts forming to transform him into any mode. So what I do generally is I flip this around, flip these pieces around, and peg this on the top of the car like this, and then bring these out to the side and actually take the... which do I have it here? I think it's like that. Yeah. Take these hands and peg them onto to these bits here and kind of angle it down so that you can take the leg pieces here and actually peg it into to the bottom of the arms here, just like that, and kind of get those on the side of the vehicle mode, which I think is kind of a neat look here. Though sometimes they have a hard time staying on. Is that where I want them, or do I want them on the longer the farther up? Yeah, actually, I think I have it on these ones because one of them doesn't peg in very well on the lower peg, so I peg it in like that, and kind of have that look going on. It's a little bit flimsy, but you know, it's manageable, I think, and you kind of have to mess with the joints here to get them both sitting at the same level. But I think that's a pretty cool look so far. I take these little guns and just stick them onto where the spoiler bits were. Take the, where do I have the spoiler bits? I actually don't remember. Oh, I think I just put the spoiler bits on the back here. So like that. Just to give them a place to go. Then take this section here, unfold this this pink section, and kind of, it can be kind of tricky to do sometimes, but just push this peg into the other side so you can peg this bit on this way, like this, onto that hole right there. Come on. It's kind of hard to peg in because, you know, the peg itself is on a hinge. There we go. And then take this bit, fold it up like that, take the little knife and plug that in just how it is for like the big spear mode, and peg that into the top there, and then take these guns and just peg them onto the shoulder, or I guess forearm rather, bits here at an angle, which can be kind of annoying because the pegs are actually pretty tight on those. And, you know, there's some messing around with the joints to have it sit a little bit cleaner, but generally that's how I have it. And I think that's kind of a cool, you know, mode, so they can kind of race in as like a weird armored up car mode. Again, you know, not really doing like the whole dune buggy thing from the original toy, but capturing the kind of like combined spirit. I don't know. It's just kind of a neat little fan mode that I've put together, but I like it and I think it's kind of fun. But yeah, to get onto comparisons for these figures. God, I should have done this first. Okay, let me put them back in their regular vehicle modes. Okay, back in their regular vehicle modes. And unfortunately, while I was transforming them back, I noticed that because the pegs on these are so thick, that actually when I pegged them into the shoulders here, it kind of cracked these pieces here. I don't know if you can see that there, which is not great. So maybe that doesn't really work as a solution, which sucks. So I don't know if there really is a great place for these, unfortunately, because that was the best place for them. So I guess I'll just put them back here for now, since those peg holes seem to be handling it okay. But yeah, that's not great, especially for, you know, the price that these Shattered Glass figures go for, but whatever. For this regular size comparison, for the standard one, here they are with Kingdom Sideswipe, so you can see, you know, pretty standard size cars there. Here they are with the original Earthrise Wheeljack and Earthrise Fast Track, so you can see Fast Track and Wheeljack, that's fun. So you can see what they look like with their original molds there. And then here they are I mean, technically he's a Shattered Glass Decepticon the way that he's being sold, but if you're using him as Shattered Glass, I think you'd probably want him to be Shattered Glass Wheeljacked. So I'm going to show him off with the other Shattered Glass Autobots, not the Decepticons, just because I think that makes more sense. But that's what he looks like with all of them. But yeah, to get on to transformation, let's just start real quick with Fast Track here. Not Fast Track, Exo-Suit, sorry. First of all, you know, just take them apart like a lot of the weaponizers. You can unfold these bits here to be the feet and unfold the legs just like that. Flip around these red pieces, and we'll just stand that up for now. You want to take this whole section, unpeg it. The arms, I think technically the arms are actually supposed to just stay where they are and peg on the other way. So these pegs are flipped up, but usually I do it like this so that the the detail sits up. But you just peg those onto the other side there. So they have the detail placed forward. Take this little knife, unplug it, rotate around his head, peg this section together just like that, and then take this bit and put it on the back there. And yeah, there you have, I mean, what you're supposed to do is either have him like that or have these bits up on the shoulders, either pointed sideways or forward. I've never really liked that look for him or Fast Track. And again, like then you're supposed to have him hold this rather than store it anywhere. So what I tend to do is instead of storing them like that, I tend to unpeg this section, take these little blasters and then peg them into these screw holes, just kind of add a bit of an angle just because they're kind of loose in there, and then take this section, put it in its other orientation, and then peg it in, which kind of presses these in and holds them in place. And then this I just put on the back of his head for lack of a better option. And then because all the stuff is back there, it tends to bump in his arms. So I use the higher up arm holes. So his arms just sit a little bit lower. Can be kind of annoying. There we go. Get those set in place. So that's how I personally choose to have him oriented. I don't know why this is flopping around. Usually it's pretty solidly locked in place there. But either way, what is going on here? Oh, I think the body is not fully tabbed into place. Yeah, you doing all right? God, I'm discovering all sorts of problems with this figure while recording this review. There we go. All right, everything's locked in place. So yeah, that's what he looks like, and we'll bring him back on later. For Slicer himself, obviously, if you have Earthrise Wheeljack, it's exactly the same. You just want to take the spoilers, rotate them around just like that, untab these sections and bring them out to the side. Rotate this bit down and then rotate the hand back over so his arms are oriented correctly. Unpeg the shoulders and kind of swing them out to the side. Take this whole section, rotate it around like that. Flip up the head. Thankfully, I know some people have an issue with Wheeljack's head getting stuck, and the same with Exhaust too. I don't really have that issue with either of them, but with him, it does not seem to be an issue either, so that's good. Unpeg the windshield here and double hinge it up like that to peg it into the chest there. Split the legs and then double hinge them down, and then while you're double hinging them down, make sure to swing this piece onto the inside of the leg just like that, and then fold the feet down. And then bring the arms down, and there we have Slicer in his robot mode. And yeah, I think he looks fantastic, honestly. Like, I really like this color scheme, and you know, I knew I was gonna like it, but then when I got it in person, like, I was not predicting just like how much it pops when sitting next to other stuff. It's a really nice little color scheme, and is definitely very reminiscent of that original Action Master Slicer there. In terms of articulation, obviously just the same as Wheeljack. The head's on a ball joint, so it can rotate around like that, gets a little bit of wiggle. The shoulders for transformation, they have a bit of that hinge up just like that, and then they have a separate hinge at the shoulder itself that hinges up, and then obviously that swivel that goes around. He's got a bicep swivel, 90 degrees of bend at the elbow, wrist rotation for transformation, waist rotation, hips can go forward, kind of tight, back, out to the side. He's got a thigh swivel, about 90 degrees, a little more of bend at the knee there. And then the ankles can tilt forward and back and then tilt out to the side as well. So yeah, pretty decent articulation, all things considered, for him. For the Exo-Suit here, obviously the head can rotate there, though has a limited range if you have the knife kind of pegged into it like I do, but otherwise can swivel all the way around. The shoulders can swivel all the way around. They're just pegged in and then kind of hinge out to the side, only about that far. It's got a bicep swivel, about 90 degrees of bend at the elbow, wrist rotation, waist rotation, though the way I have it, it kind of bumps into the backpack a little bit, so it doesn't get a ton of movement. Hips can go forward, back about that far, out to the side. He's got a thigh swivel from just like where it pegs in. Pretty deep knee bend there for transformation. The toes can kind of tilt down, and he also has a separate ankle tilt. So yeah, you know, pretty decent, all things considered. We can bring on these weapons here, and obviously, I mean, you could do a lot with him to give him a bunch of different weapons, but you know, I prefer him holding these anyway. He can obviously hold these in his hands, and the pegs are not too tight for these peg holes, thankfully. It really just seems to be those ones on the shoulders, because they're not like supported by any extra material around the edge, so that's not great, but I'm sure there's other places I could find to put it on his vehicle mode. And if you want to store it, you know, he does still have the port on the back there, so you could just peg them together and then just peg it onto his back like that, and that works well enough. I mean, you could also, you know, like replace the spoilers and put them somewhere else, but if you want the little, you know, V spoiler thing up there, then that's how you can store it. And then obviously you can still hold this weapon too if you want to, or plug it into his shoulders, and that looks fine. I guess I just, again, don't really think he needs it when he's got all these other weapons. If you want to do the actual like Exo-Suit mode, they have showed off one orientation where you flip these in to kind of become like feet extensions, so you can put them on the back, on the bottom of his feet here. You know, just making use of all those Earthrise and Siege, you know, like battle ports that they had all over the place. Well, we'll take the weapons off for now. What do they want you to do? All right, we want to take them apart here. And they want to just give him the knife. I mean, his name is Slicer, so I guess he should have a knife. That's fair. Then they want you to... okay, let's get this piece separated. Come on. Come on, you weren't staying in place properly before. What is going on here? Okay. All right, off camera, I guess. Okay, that was annoying, but whatever. I guess we just want to rotate the head back around and peg these back together just how they were for vehicle mode. And I believe you're supposed to just put this on his shoulder just to kind of hang out there, because I don't think they really had a good place for it. And then you're supposed to take these bits and peg them into the... now I'm a little worried about about those sockets, but peg them into to this section here. Guess you want this bit rotated around, and then you can give him the guns again in his hands, so you can peg that into his back here to give him this sort of like weaponized mode. I mean, it's just a typical use of, you know, the fast track mold to make a sort of weaponized mode. It doesn't really homage specifically the old Exo-Suit from the Action Master toy line. It's just, you know, doing the best with what they have, I guess. But yeah, it's okay. You could play around with the orientation of this. I did try for a little while to like get these to like sit around his body, kind of like a roll cage, because that's really how the original Action Master Slicer's Exo-Suit mode works, and I wasn't really able to find anything super good, so it's something you can experiment around with, but that is the one that they kind of show off officially. But yeah, let's take him apart and put him back together so we can do some comparisons in this mode. Again, I'm gonna have to do that off camera just to spare you my fumbling. Okay, sorry about that. My phone died while I was transforming all the guys there. But yeah, here they are with Kingdom Sideswipe, just for that standard size Deluxe comparison. Again, you know, they're both pretty much average height Deluxes there. Here they are again with Wheeljack and Fast Track, who they're the repaints of. Again, both of them are just straight up repaints, no new molding aside from the new guns added there. But, you know, that's what they look like together. Here they are with all of our Shattered Glass Autobots again. Get everybody on there, just so you can see what he looks like with them if you're wanting this to be Shattered Glass Wheeljack, in which case you probably wouldn't have him with them, and you'd probably want to put a purple Autobot logo on him, but, you know, whatever, that's what they all look like together. And then I guess if you really must, if you must see it, oh my gosh, I'm knocking everybody over. Here they are with the Shattered Glass Decepticons that we have so far, since technically he's a Decepticon, a Shattered Glass Decepticon. If you want him to be Shattered Glass Slicer, who just has the exact same color scheme as regular Slicer, that's what he looks like with them. Personally, I just have him be a regular universe version of Slicer, not a Shattered Glass version, but that is what he looks like with them. And then last but not least, here he is with a couple other Action Master sort of, you know, reboots, a couple new versions of Action Master. We've got Jackpot and Sights there, and then Croc from Titan's Return. Obviously, you know, Jackpot is an Autobot, and the rest of them are Decepticons, but still, that's what he looks like with them, just for some other Action Master comparisons. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. It's a nice set. I do like it. I really like the Shattered Glass Wheeljack / Slicer color scheme. Again, personally, for me, I'm gonna have him just be a regular version of Slicer, but you know, it's nice to, it's sort of like, you know, how they put out the Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus, who came with the Shattered Glass Ultra Magnus head and then the regular Ultra Magnus head, so it could just be the Optimus Prime colored version of Ultra Magnus that existed from Diaclone, so kind of pulling double duty there. I respect it. I understand why he's in the Shattered Glass collection. It's just one of those cases where it's like, well, it would have made more sense to just put him as Shattered Glass Wheeljack, and then, but if they did that, then they wouldn't have any reason to include him with it and make him twice the cost. So maybe that's why they did it. You know, complaining about the price, I know it gets tiresome, but it gets tiresome to pay for them too. So yeah, you know, especially because I like him. I don't know if I needed this figure, but as a set, it is kind of fun to try to, you know, do some sort of rendition of the Exo-Suit mode. So yeah, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's just kind of annoying that I have to pay, you know, like double the price of what I was wanting to pay just for him. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Shattered Glass Collection, Decepticon Slicer with Exo-Suit.